Republicans led the charge for education reform, and one of the results of that was the adoption of the Common Core curriculum standards, but those standards have now been met with a lot of criticism. What is your position on it? We begin with Mr. Loretti.
Well, I'm not sure that the Common Core changes anything. We already have school systems within our state that are performing pretty well, and I think it would be wrong to try to get everyone to in a one-size-fits-all mode because we have school systems that aren't performing. The ones that aren't performing, those are the ones that we should focus on. Quite honestly, I think that government needs to get out of the classroom. We need to empower superintendents of schools and principals. We need to allow them to do their job and hold them accountable. You know, in this state, when we're at the high end of the food chain in terms of salaries, we certainly could do a better job in terms of accountability. And so, you know, education affects all of us across the nation. And when the best and brightest of our state and our nation perform far less than other countries, it's a cause for concern. So the things we've been doing over the last several years clearly are not working. We need to shift directions and change our priorities.
Thanks. Mr. Visconti.
Governor Malloy is the enemy of the teachers, parents. With Common Core, how we pushed this without a legislature hearing, and we finally got one after fighting. I've been leading the charge on this for about a year. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, this is a monopoly takeover, corporate takeover of our education system. The testing does not replace our mastery testing. The testing does not replace all the things your children go through. I've talked to thousands of parents. Moms don't want it. They call them tiger moms. They're adamantly against this thing. They've had it shoved down their throat. The testing and the curriculum are completely out of touch with what we have come to know as education. This is synthetic education by what I've claimed to be the education cartel. That's social engineers, federal, state level, union bosses, people that are going to put the Obamacare of education. That's what this is. It's a monster, and we need to unfund it.
Mr. Bowden.
Well, we've kind of seen this game played out before us many times. You remember, if you like your doctor, you can keep it. If you like your local public school teacher, you can keep them too. The reality is that none of that's true. This is a top-down driven program that I think will have a profound impact on the ability of our teachers to do their job every single day. Look, I'm a certified teacher. I taught high school for 14 years. I have a master's degree in educational psychology. And I understand that children are not a one-size-fits-all product that we're trying to create. We're trying to build human beings in our public school system across the state. And we use a single model to be able to do that. We ignore all the promise and possibility and potential that exists in those children and so many other areas of their lives. So as governor, I'll slow down the process of Common Core. I will decouple it away from our teachers' evaluative process, and I'll engage our practitioners, our administrators, and most importantly, our parents in creating an educational system for the 21st century that gives our children the skills to be competitive in this global environment that we live in.
Mr. McKinney.
I fundamentally don't believe in one-size-fits-all top-down programs. It didn't work with No Child Left Behind, and it's not working with Common Core. Education decisions specifically and in particular should be made at the local level. They should be made with the input of teachers, administrators, parents, and even the students in our classrooms. They're the ones at the front lines. They're the ones should be making the decisions. And when I'm governor, they will be making decisions because I'll be listening to them. Governor Malloy and his Commissioner of Education, Stephen Pryor, have failed. They failed our children. They failed our teachers. That's why I'm the only one who's called for the resignation of the Education Commissioner. And when I'm governor, I promise you, I will have an Education Commissioner who's actually taught in our classrooms because we're going to listen to the people on the front lines. They're the ones who know our kids best. They're the ones we ought to listen to. They're the ones we ought to trust.
Ms. Dean.
Yes, I pretty much agree with everything that's been said here, and I agree in empowering teachers and parents. I disagree a little bit on the facts about the education statistics because actually when you remove the inner cities from the measurements in America, we are way ahead of the rest of the world. The rest of the world, when they measure come up with their education statistics, they leave out the illegal immigrants, they leave out the poor, and measure the students who are in the productive schools. So we actually have very good schools in Connecticut. We shouldn't destroy what's that's already excellent. We should focus, as others have said, on the schools that are broken and need our help. But I do not believe the government should be stepping in and substituting for the family. These kinds of solutions are not only very expensive. Common Core is not free. We're going to be paying for this. They might have made it come from the federal government, which is us also, initially, but eventually it comes from us. And these school systems are already so expensive in Connecticut, and it's not going to make it better. It's going to, in my view, make these our educational system worse. But whether it's the educational system with government running it, or whether it's...
Thank you. You'll now have 30 seconds for a rebuttal, beginning with Mr. Loretti.
What we have seen over the years and what government typically does is they continue to employ more legislation and more mandates down to the local level, and particularly in education. That's a distraction away from the classroom experience. The thing that we should be focusing on is the student-teacher-parent relationship. That's the single most important thing in education. Everything else is really secondary, but when people are inundated with paperwork and reports that have to go to the state, you got to wonder who's reading them, and if they are, what are they doing to make any changes?
Mr. Visconti?
I think the Waldorf education and the Montessori education with arts and with the human being the center of education is what we need to model our public education after. We've moved away into a mechanistic model. Our children are not machines. They're human beings. They're coming out of childhood and out of fantasy, and to have them study programs that are very logical at too young of an age. This is what Common Core does. It strips the arts away and moves the children to be automatons at a very young age. It's causing stress and anxiety.
Thank you. Mr. Bowden?
I just reiterate that, look, we're not building products, we're building people. So let's invest in our public school system. Let's invest in a portfolio of programming that kids can accelerate and accentuate the thing and their aspirations that they have in with them. Let's invest in our teachers and let them do what they do best, which is teach the children of Connecticut.
Mr. McKinney?
My youngest of my three kids, my daughter Kate, 8th grade in the Fairfield Public School System, came home the other day and said, "We're going to be taking a new test, Dad, and we're going to be taking it for the next 2 weeks." How is that helping her learn in the classroom? My brother Stuart's been teaching in the Bridgeport Public Schools for over 20 years, and he will tell you every day that testing those kids for information that they haven't even been taught is not helping them. Governor Malloy is not listening to our kids, he's not listening to our parents, and he's not listening to our teachers, and that's why we need a new governor and a new commitment to education in Connecticut.
Thank you. Ms. Dean?
Yes, thank you. This is another example of government breaking something and then fixing it. I mean, do we have to break our healthcare system just to fix it? Do we have to break our school system just to fix it? This is what we have seen from the left for so long in this country. Why the people keep voting for these politicians is beyond comprehension. We need another direction, and I think everyone here stands for the same direction. Restore the connection between parents and kids, teachers and parents, and teachers and kids, and get government out of the classroom, out of our businesses, out of our lives, to free us up to be productive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to take another quick break. When we come back for our final segment, we'll ask our final question. We'll hear closing statements from each of the candidates, and we're going to learn a little bit about each of them outside of politics.